Hello and welcome everybody to episode 116 or thereabouts of the formerly known as Blind Run Gaming Podcast and now rebranded Son of a Tech Podcast. And while the name of the channel is Son of a Tech, the topic is gaming, and joining me as always is my co-host Slang Arang.
Hello, hello.
I think I nailed that one. I'm just saying.
I think we're a week, maybe two off from stopping the whole rebrand and just call it the Son of the Tech Podcast instead of calling it the Blind Run Gaming, or formerly known as blah, 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 blah.
It will, and then I'll have to come up with a new intro, but you're going to give me that for today. So yeah, we're golden. Sure. So this week we're going to talk about the games we played. Oh no.
Oh no? What's wrong?
I was just going to see if you could jump into news topics, but we didn't discuss that beforehand. So
no. And then we have, as usual, news topics from this week in gaming.
Including Sombra is Doomfist's hard counter, apparently.
Anthem lead designer passes away.
And we have a follow-up from last week. The Pokemon Go European events are apparently canceled. We'll talk about that a little bit.
RX Vega Price and specs announced.
And, of course, we have more AMD news. So this is probably out of the... We usually stick to gaming, but we are going to talk about this because it's probably the biggest thing on the planet going on right now. But as well, we have an 8-core variant of Threadripper announced, which I'm super interested in personally. But we'll talk about that more later. And then we also have the game releases of the week. They are not very many. So, yeah.
It's probably one of the shortest lists we've ever had for that.
I was looking at it, and I could have put a whole bunch of re-releases or expansions or like rebrands like on there, but I was like, that seems completely useless for the audience. So that's okay. We have plenty of news topics this week. We are not short on them. So what have you been playing this week?
What? I've been playing World of Warcraft as usual. A little lighter on World of Warcraft lately. Okay. I don't know if it's that I've just not been into it as much, or it's just that outside of actual like raid nights with the guild that I'm in, I don't have a lot that I could do that actually like benefits me. So it's like busy work that doesn't really net me anything, or play another game.
So what have you been supplementing?
I supplemented with trying to get back into XCOM 2, which is frustrating as shit.
So that game's hard, right?
Yeah, it's stupid hard. Like I'm doing the whole cheat save before the mission and reload if like you F up the mission royally. Yeah. And I'm still having like massive issues with the Avatar project is what you're trying to, you're up against a clock on. Yeah. And I'm not doing well against that clock.
No, that game's hard. That's all I can really say about it from what I remember. And I don't even think I started playing the second one, to be honest with you. I think I played the beta of it, and I was like, I already can't beat one.
I mean, it's the same game. It's just a different story. With like slightly, they add a few hero types, and that's about it.
So if I can't beat the first one, I'm not going to beat the second one.
No, it's harder. The second one is far harder. Like I'm on like the second difficulty, like not the easiest, just like one step higher, and it's still fucking stupid hard.
I put all my games on casual now. Call it a day.
I honestly might start doing that.
I'm I'm running out of time to play games, so like sitting there getting my ass kicked over and over again is just like not conducive to like in my enjoyment right now. I do take that back. Like, I can't do, like, Bayonetta on casual because it just takes away all the combos and it does, like, easy mode. Right. And so if I do that, the game becomes way too easy and not fun, right? Because you still need to be able to, like, actually
I feel like you tune it. You tune it for each game that you play.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the reason that I like World of Warcraft is because it's relatively easy.
It's just this, it's just a grind. If you can grind, you can play WoW.
Right.
Yeah. I played, so we talked about Pyre last week.
Yep.
And Pyre is not a turn-based strategy game. It is a 3v3. Don't know. So essentially it's 3v3. There is a pyre or the goals at each end of the map. And you have characters or RPG characters, meaning by that I mean you can upgrade them, level them up, pick and choose different characters before you go into battle with different strengths like tanks and runners and healers and snipers and shit like that. So it gets really cool. But it is like a real time. But you can switch between the 3 players at any time. You can pass the ball. You can throw the ball into the pyre or you can run it in. There's different points depending on how you do that. And then it has this whole storyline going along with it. And probably one of the best soundtracks of the year, in my opinion, so far. Is definitely in that game, which is not a surprise because you're talking about Banished and Transistor. So soundtrack-wise, I knew it was going to be good.
Right.
It was kind of like...
So it's a fucked up RPG meets Rocket League?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're just taking a ball and throwing it into a goal. You can... So you press... Anytime you have the ball... You can't kill anybody. Like, you can't, like, you essentially will die. So if there's an aura around each player, and depending on what kind of player or class it is, the aura is bigger or smaller, right? And the aura, if it touches you when you have the ball, you die. And so you kind of want to play this weird, like, catch and, pass and catch game, and try
keep
not...
away.
Yeah, keep away, essentially.
Right.
But you can also, shoot. So if you hold B, which if you have the ball and you hold B, it preps it to throw it, right, into the goal. And then you can pass with, I think it's like Y. But if you hold B and you don't have the ball, you can shoot someone. And even if they have their aura around them and they don't have the ball, you'll kill them. So... Those are like the 3 ways to do it. And then they have
like a 10-second respawn
So
time
the respawn is also part of the RPG. So the more you level up, some players have a shorter respawn. You can also get a shorter respawn depending on how many knockouts you've had or if you've scored. And so there's different... Just depends on how you build your team, right? So that's the neat part about it. I haven't played the multiplayer. There apparently is a little bit of a multiplayer. Or like
it sounds like it's perfectly set up for multiplayer.
Yeah, so I do want to check that out. I think it's a great game. I mean, one of the things I like about what that team does is they create games that are not just cookie cutter all the time. Like, usually a studio will do what they do best and just keep doing that. And I like how this is completely different than like Banished or Transistor.
I can't think of another studio that would do something RPG for Rocket League, so...
Yeah. So there you go.
To overly simplify it to a point that they're
winning. And then
if any of their designers are watching this, they're probably choking just a little bit.
I played Vanquish as well, which is an old PlayStation 2 game or PlayStation 3 game, and it re-released on PC at 60 FPS and 4K. Now the benefit is the PlayStation version was dropping below 30 FPS all the time. So having a version that's playable is the first time I've played it, and it is a lot of fun. The mechanics are pretty straightforward. It's a mix of Gears of War and Metal Gear Solid, pretty much. So it's a third-person cover-based shooter. Oh, and Max Payne with a bullet time. So it has...
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. It is very fast-paced, but you can use it as a cover-based shooter. So it has enough variance in mechanics that you can kind of play however you like, which I find neat. And so sometimes I get bored and I run out and I try to, do the bullet time mixed with like sliding around the map a whole bunch. And that's cool. There is no jump button, which is kind of annoying. But it funnels you in a very linear path.
Every time there's a game that doesn't have jumping, I think of the movie The Invention of Lying. I don't know if you saw that movie, but it was a fantastic movie with Ricky Gervais. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but essentially it's this world where lying doesn't exist, and he eventually tells something that's not true and becomes a all-star because of it. So whenever somebody can't jump, it's like, did like this whole like society go and develop, and nobody thought that they could go and, you know, springboard off their feet to go and, you know,
nobody
gain elevation.
Figure out how to jump, so just nobody jumps. Yeah, and it's funny because they have like jetpacks. So like in the damn game, there's like some characters and enemies that have jetpacks and are flying around, and you're like, this is totally not fucking fair. I can't even jump over a wall. Like,
yeah, this guy can jetpack over it.
You can jump over the wall, but you have to attach to it first and then vault. So it's not even a jump, it's a vault. And only certain objects can you vault over, right? So that's my biggest gripe with
maybe it's a gravity thing. The gravity is like 10 times
the way,
higher
yeah, so you have to push over it. So, I mean, in that case, though, I am a fucking space marine. I would go into battle with a jetpack at that point because I'm a fucking space marine. Like, if the gravity's that bad, I'm going to be like, look, we need jetpacks. I'm not going into battle without a fucking jetpack. All right, bro?
Right.
And if they're like, no, I'd be like, well, that's fine. I will sit here on this ship and not go anywhere. But the end of the world. Fuck your end of the world.
You're not giving me a jetpack.
We're in space. There's tons of fucking worlds at this point. What's so special about this one? I need a jetpack. God damn it. So that is that game wrapped up in a nice tiny bubble. Now, I did go to a LAN event this weekend. I'm super fucking tired from it. I picked up a little cold, so if I start hacking it up, I'll try to cut it out of the podcast, and I apologize in advance to Slangerang's ears. But I built a custom PC for it, so I will link the video. You guys probably have seen it. I released the video last night of the build. There's pictures going up all over, and it will be featured in CPU Magazine in a couple months. So it got 3rd place in the PC mod contest. It is featuring the Frontier Edition Vega GPU, so I'm super stoked about that. Kind of proud.
Now, did you have to like... You still have that PC and you can like sell it or something, or use it. Or whatever, right?
I can use it or sell. It's right there.
Remember, I can't see your video.
Yeah, but I'm pointing to it for the people on YouTube.
You punk.
Yeah. So people on the podcast, you can't see it either. And if you are on the podcast and you're curious what we look like, we do have a video on YouTube, and vice versa. I don't know why I say that wrong all the time. Vice versa, if you're on YouTube and you're sick of looking at
it's that Texas thing.
Yeah, and if you're sick of looking at our ugly mugs, go check out the podcast on Stitcher and iTunes. And while I'm at it, make sure you rate the podcast, because the podcast doesn't have enough ratings to really get anywhere in iTunes, so that'd be super sweet. If I doubt, or on Stitcher too. Actually, just do Stitcher, because I can pretty much almost guarantee we have 0 listeners on iTunes at this point. Like, I don't think iTunes exists in our market at this point. I don't think that's in the realm of our existence. There's that one guy that's been listening to it since 2012 that really enjoys it on his
last week. He was
iPod.
Like, what the fuck? There's a new Blind Ring Gaming podcast? What is this son of a tech thing? Don't worry, I felt the same way.
We apologize. No, so out there, I actually finished the build out there. I did the liquid cooling in my little cube, or in my spot for BYOC. I spilled yellow dyed fluid all over, only once.
Yeah, and
everyone was super cool, so I didn't get in trouble. I got beat out by V1 Tech, who is a laser cutter special modder out of Dallas, and I lost to a guy that built a fish tank computer, but like with all liquid cooling, and then had real fish swimming in it. So I can say that. Yeah. So I'll link to him to you later too. He's pretty cool. But I lost my loss was justified. I will put it that way. I deserve the third place.
Right.
By far. There's no doubts about that in my mind. As soon as you see a fish tank, you're like, well, fuck me. He even had glowing fish with UV lights. At that point, womp womp.
I don't know. I saw some pictures of your build, and it's impressive and looks pretty and all that, but I want to never see my PC. I want an invisible box that is super powerful. Like if I had space in my room to go and build like a server closet and have my PC in there and never have to see it, I would do that. But I don't really have the space for that.
I want to get as close to never hearing a PC again, and then I'll worry about never seeing it. Does that make sense? Never hearing is more advantageous.
I mean, I have a silent build right now. So
yeah.
You just need the.
I think so.
Thermal takes suppressor. That's the case I have. I think.
Yeah.
And that,
I remember that. Yeah.
Absolutely kills sounds.
And like
I have the
I don't know. I agree with you, but then there's this weird kind of like e-peen of wanting to do a sick build and take it to a LAN event, right? Like it's the
get it, but I don't at the same time.
It's just like I want to go build one that looks super cool and show it off at a LAN event, and then probably honestly never play on it again because that's what I do. I'm a tech tuber. I move on to the next build pretty much as soon as I'm done with the other build. That is how I work.
And you never use it. Like, you never actually play video games.
Like I benchmarked. I played Rocket League for about 6 hours, and then I played fucking a little bit of Call of Duty, and then I played something else. I can't remember. Mainly Rocket League, though. I mean, I built a PC with $1,000 GPU and played Rocket League. There you go. So that was my weekend. It was fun, though. News topics. How about we do that? How about we do it? Do you want to start?
Yes.
You are probably more up to date. I did play 2 matches of Overwatch this weekend. I didn't play Doomfist. I played against him, though. So
right, he's going to be in every match. It's just going to be one of those things that for the next week or two,
there are going to be 2 of him in every match.
yeah,
one
most
for
likely.
each team.
So for those of you who don't know, Doomfist is a new character in Overwatch. He came out this past week, and he's kind of a tanky hero. And apparently, and this is in an article that is going to be in the show notes, Sombra is supposed to be Doomfist's hard counter, which is kind of fun because Sombra is one of the heroes I like to play a lot.
Yeah, so I guess you'll be off to the races. Now, and I was curious, what are, because I forgot, what are Sombra's like main abilities? Because here, like, basically Doomfist is supposed to be a beefier Genji, and I haven't played him yet, so I'm not sure about that. But I haven't played Doomfist yet either, so I don't have the full idea of what his loadout is. But Sombra has a couple things. First of all, she's a hacker, and what she'll do is if you go and target a player and right click, I think it's either right click or whatever it is, that you use a special ability, not the shoot, not the fire. Okay. You can hack them, and if you don't get attacked during the cast time, you can go and make it such that they are shut down from using special abilities. They can still shoot, they just can't use any of their special abilities for like and
5
essentially
seconds
it sounds like to me he's a very combo heavy player that has a weak primary weapon. So if you shut down his abilities, you pretty much stop him in his tracks because he can't. It looks like his main weapon only has a range of 15 meters, which is pretty short. So
no, it's a lot like Winston is, and so we have another tank that has very short range, but very powerful.
But he doesn't even pop up on tank when I went into selection. He was over on damage, so that was kind of interesting.
Huh. More of a brawler than a tank.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed he was going to be a tank based off of stature.
Yeah, he's not. He's on the left. At least in the character selection, and maybe that'll change. They'll move him around. Who knows? Depending on how people start playing with him, right?
Well, it's all dependent on his abilities. If he doesn't have tank abilities, then he's going to stay as damage.
Well, he has an ability that gives him 400 health. A shield. It gives him plus 400 health.
That's not a lot at all.
Isn't that a weird thing to waste an ability on? That seems odd to me. Because it doesn't.
It depends on the cooldown.
Yeah, I guess if it's fast and you're just in, pop it just to get in like your combo, pop back out.
It's also
that's the way he's played.
That health is based on how much damage you've done to enemies, apparently.
Oh, okay. So it's a stack. It's a stack. So you want to be building stacks like you would in like a typical MOBA or something like that. Cool. Well, and I'm sure people in the comments can let us know more about him. I'm sure people have already played.
Yeah, they're probably like, "What the fuck? Sling knows nothing about Sombra." No.
So that's the
so you hack, and then you can teleport, and you can hack health kits. So you kind of weave in and out of. It's like Tracer, only different.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know if I really like that, but I need to play him, I guess, before I can definitively say what I do and do not like. Just like when I talk about using Vega. What's next?
Korey Gasper, one of the developers for Anthem, has passed away. And he was pretty young, too.
And Anthem's not even out yet. To give you guys an idea, other games that he worked on was Sonic Chronicles, Dragon Age Origins, Mass Effect 2 and 3. So he had a couple good games in there, and probably is one of the most hated people on planet Earth for Mass Effect 3. But we'll see. Well, I guess respect, condolences. Sorry for the bad taste in jokes there, but Anthem's super highly anticipated. This is man, that must suck dick to not get to celebrate that with someone you've been working on a very highly anticipated game with, because it has.
I wonder what happened. Like, he looks younger.
I couldn't find it.
It's one of those things that we might have to wait a little bit, because that literally happened, or they posted that today.
That was today, and I actually I dropped another topic to bring this up. So, and I couldn't find it. This one's actually on the BioWare blog an hour ago for us, and probably by the time you guys see this, maybe about 3 hours ago or hear this. So that's what we're looking at. I don't see. They didn't announce what it was.
We might be able to find out more later, but I just hope it's not another suicide.
That seems to be the popular thing, or the trending cause of death. It doesn't seem like that. Oh, you never know anybody. I can't say that. I completely take that back. Don't listen to me. Stop.
Avoid getting yelled at.
But in some more bad news, the Pokemon Go events in Europe are postponed after the debacle in Chicago, essentially, that we talked about last week, which I'll link somewhere above us, the note or the show for last week, and you can go hear our thoughts on that. We went into more detail on why we think it might be, or bashed him for not preparing better. And it looks like because of that, they're essentially canceling other events that they were planning. One on the 14th in Japan, is that correct? And one in Amsterdam on the 12th, and Prague on August 5th. So that was.
I wonder if it's going to be one of those things where they're going to have to realize that holding events in a specific location isn't going to work. And as much as that's probably the best way for them to go and monetize the game nowadays, they're going to just have to hold, worldwide events where the locations are spread out, and you can go to Chicago, you can go to New York, you can go to Boston, and it's not just one location, it's all of that city. That way you're spreading the cell use over the entire city.
Go out. We won't tell you where they are, but you might get lucky this weekend, wink wink, in a highly or a dense populous area, right? So
yeah. Or even the opposite, if you go out into nature or someplace that, despite being nature, has cell coverage.
That would be, yeah. Well, that would be cooler, but maybe not practical.
Harder to implement, yeah.
How about just go to Central Park?
Right.
Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But I guess that's a little disappointing, but not the end of the world.
RX Vega. Price and specs announced.
So, Slang, how would you feel about, buying another GPU from a competitor of a GTX 1080 that you already own for about the same price, even though you already have the GTX 1080?
Well, I guess my number one question is going to be, how much better will it perform than my 1080?
Nothing. It's exactly the same. So
then, hell no.
So that's the problem with this launch. That's what I want to demonstrate to y'all before we get into, should you buy AMD or Nvidia? Is everybody already bought the fucking 1080 that was going to buy higher end GPUs for the year? They already bought one. This isn't any better. And in fact, it's so young that the drivers are probably not mature enough. But that's besides the point. The fact is, it's going to be hard to sell a GPU that competes with an already released GPU after that GPU's already been out for over 6 months.
Right. It just doesn't make sense.
You can't.
Unless they're drastically competing on either price point or performance. And neither one of those things. So it already looks... So like... You have three things. You have quality, performance, and price point. And they're going to fail. They're going to tie on two and fail on the third because the drivers aren't going to be as good as NVIDIA's drivers because NVIDIA is 6 months ahead of them.
Yeah, so, I mean, regardless of the arguments that people are going to come up with, like drivers, right now it's just easier for NVIDIA to be ahead of the game. They have more mature drivers because they've been out longer. So that's
even on that note, I know that most of the ETH mining is focusing on the low end cards, but what is the availability of 1080s versus what is going to be the availability of the RX Vega?
HBM2,
are you going to jump through hoops to go and get a Vega when you can just get a 1080 that's sitting on a shelf? Yeah,
well, so there are two things. I will notate this. I already tested hash rate on this Vega. Pretty bad. HBM2 is not good at mining, so miners aren't going to pick these up, so they will be on the shelves. That's number one. Number two is that the power consumption is 400 watts at the top end. The recommended power supply is 1,000 watts on the AMD website.
What?
And
I don't even have 1,000 watt in my system.
We're not sure if this is proper or correct. Everybody's hoping that they mistyped this, but it's been up for almost 24 hours now. So
I only have like an 850 in my system because that's all I need.
Yeah, that's really pushing it, man. They were trying. What I assume happened is they were trying to hit 1080 performance and just had to push that much power to get those chips to be at 1080 performance.
I wonder if they have I wonder if they're losing money on this and they are cherry picking. Like, I have to assume that they're cherry picking processors to go in the best of the best as far as
the cost
thermal performance.
The cost of HBM2 is a lot more than just GDDR5. I mean, they've had to put a lot of money just into the memory alone.
Right. And
it's great memory. I mean, the problem is they spend so much time on R&D for that. I think that they might have forgotten about the processing cores maybe a little bit. Maybe that's what happened. Probably did happen. I don't know. This after Ryzen, this is quite disappointing because Ryzen was one of those. And that's the problem. Like Ryzen was super surprising, right? It was like the underdog coming back from behind and just like smacking the shit out of the Goliath, and that was cool, right? And so people were hoping that would happen with the GPU market. And this is it's a mediocre product, right?
Well, I mean, if it's a 1080, the 1080 is kind of like one of the best things, or at least until the 1080 Ti came out, the best bang for your buck as far as, massive performance in single 2-slot card.
I think from my perspective, it's sad because that means that we still only have one 4K option, or one option really for 4K, which is the 1080 Ti. I mean, that's
right. If
you want to play 4K, that's your only option. And unfortunately, even that, Deus Ex Mankind Divided is gonna cripple it. So that's not I want what I think I tweeted out the other day. I said, I'll be interested in a new GPU when somebody comes out with one that will do Deus Ex Mankind Divided at 4K 60.
Oh,
and then
that's not going to be one GPU for a long time.
Volta, come on, baby. I'll do it.
It's still not going to do it.
I'm just going to, right now, guys, hashtag waiting for Volta, and then tweet it at me. And then
the 1080 Ti just came out. It's going to be another year before the Volta.
Yeah, it'll be. Well, no, we're probably only about, I'm going to say we're probably about 7 months away from the next NVIDIA line. And
I think that's early.
If it repeats the last cycle, then the 1080 Ti performance will be at the 1060 current 1060, the 1080 Ti will be the next like 1160 or whatever they decide to call it,
right?
Which means it could be in 7 to 10 months. I don't know.
I doubt it. I severely doubt it.
The thing is, Pascal was quite a large leap. It wasn't a small leap. If you consider where like the 980 Ti was at,
and we waited longer though. Like the 980 to 1080 was a longer time period than usual.
I didn't feel like it was. I'm trying to remember. I didn't have the 980 Ti more than a year before I got the 1080.
Yeah, but and then now you're on an XP.
Yeah. The old
Actually,
XP.
Are you on an XP
I'm
or are you
X
on a
Pascal. I'm on the old XP. I'm on the one that's as powerful as a 1080 Ti. Yeah.
But it's expensive as two 1080s.
Yeah, but SLI never works, so that argument's bullshit anyway. People that always do that to me, I'm like, that's cool, man. I play every game when it comes out, so fuck SLI, because the last thing I want to do is troubleshoot fucking half an hour every time I try to get a game trying to get fucking SLI to work. Worst investment ever. I did Crossfire. Remember when I did Crossfire? That was awful. Terrible.
All right. Threadripper adds 8-core variant.
So this is interesting because the thing is the 1800X, which is Ryzen, already has 8 cores. The argument that I'm going to pose here, because every time I get online, people are like, well, this is stupid. Why would you release an 1800X on Threadripper? Well, the reasoning is because your Ryzen chipset has, I think, 20 PCI lanes, 16 undedicated, 4 dedicated. When you start talking about Threadripper, which is still Ryzen, but when you're talking about Threadripper in particular, which is the X399 chipset, you're talking about a crap ton more PCIe lanes, 64 lanes, which means that you're going to have a lot more usability for something that is an 8-core processor. I mean, if you're talking about an 8-core 16-thread processor, unfortunately, you're really, unless you're a super power user, you're not really even going to use that these days. So if you are a power user, I feel like you're going to want to utilize things like more PCIe lanes, more I/O in general, more USB devices, more graphics cards, more.
I always wonder about that. I feel like the power users end up going and using more just raw horsepower because they're, you know, encoding video, or in my
but
case,
if you're
running
encoding video,
like you're not necessarily using a ton of I/O. You're using one I/O really, really hard.
Not unless you actually are doing super hardcore GPU encoding, in which case that's where multi-GPU becomes a factor in an argument. Running 4 multi-GPUs for GPU encoding would require quite a bit more PCIe lanes. And I've seen people do this. Gamers Nexus had a video where they were trying to hook up 4 GPUs just to encode some of their graphics and such, right? So there are power users that will use those PCIe lanes for those sorts of tasks. Now, if you are only... That's the thing, though. How much stuff is really CPU these days?
A lot of the stuff I do at work is, but
okay,
that's specific to me.
So when you're talking
finite
about...
finite element analysis, for the most part, is going to be extremely CPU hamstrung.
So then something like this or something like Ryzen would be advantageous for you, provided it's not glitchy, right? Or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You also have to understand how like most of the business world works. In that I'm on Windows 7 and Windows 8 on my two work laptops. And like because they wait 3 years to go and adopt the new technology to make sure that it's stable, to make sure that everything works, all the bugs are out, that there's not going to be downtime.
I work in IT, and I deploy systems for your type of companies all the time. And we do the tried and true. We usually are trying to cut costs, so typically we're deploying into an already Intel environment. Which means if you're talking about enabling CPU features while doing the migration and keeping downtime to a minimum, you're going to keep going with Intel. That's just the way that works. So, I completely understand where you're coming from. Don't say that to an Epic AMD fanboy who wants everybody to have Epic servers now. I did mention this. I was like, so how am I supposed to sell Epic to a client? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, all right, so your Xeon servers are getting a little outdated, but instead of getting the new Xeon and then rolling over and doing a slow migration, we just want to completely redo your infrastructure with an epic processor featuring Infinity Fabric. I was like, I can't even not giggle trying to pitch that to someone. As soon as I say epic, no, with a Y.
But it has epic performance. Wait, you mean epic with a Y? No, with an I this time.
With an I this time. I was like, pitching that seems a little hard for like a business environment sales. Yeah. Like, they should have rethought that naming. Because as soon as Intel came out and said, desktop, glued together desktop dies, and then they had to name it something silly like Epic. I mean, it's hard to argue with. As stupid as that slide was, and as inaccurate as it was from Intel, as soon as you back that up with, no, it's Epic, it's kind of hard to argue when you're when you're trying to be serious, at least.
Have you actually seen how big those dies are?
Oh, well, and so is the X299 from Intel. They're all getting massive, yeah. And I should get some into the... We are going to be deploying some of the new Opteron systems, but we'll be deploying Epic probably next year, but I will get to see it. Why? Well, for new... So they are cheaper. They're incredibly cheaper, and for smaller clients that only need basic services like domain services and such that are new companies, you're just going to go with what's cheaper. So that is where they will have their niche and they will get deployed.
But then as soon as that company gets bought out by a bigger company, which is the name of the game and has been the name of the game for the past 40 years, they'll get rolled over to Intel.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, usually those things are either, and a lot of those people buy that shit on lease. Yeah, that stuff ends up just getting shipped back to like HP or whatever. It just depends. I mean, where AMD has the strong push is going to be China, since they cut the deal to do all the government servers. They should be able to get enough money out of that deal to get enough R&D to maybe be relevant in data center. I think that they're already very relevant in data center, if not the king of GPU market in data center. I don't know very many cloud or VDI deployments, or just in general anything like what you do, where people aren't running AMD for the most part, like the WX cards, stuff like that. I think you even run AMD, right?
Both.
Okay.
I have two work laptops, and one is the Fire Pro, and the other one's a Quadro. So.
You guys don't do any VDI stuff yet, though? Like, you don't do any thin client to remote, like
I'm getting upgraded to that this week, actually. So okay. Remote client FEA solving. So none of the solving will be done on my machine. It'll be done by
everything's going that route. We've been moving everybody there. I love.
No,
it
makes more sense.
Yeah, like, it's cheaper.
You can go and spend $900 on each individual user's laptop, and then spend $100,000 on a gigantic ass server that can go and handle everything. And whenever they need to do, even for 3D modeling, that you can go and offload a lot of the graphics to go and make it such that they don't have to have a high powered desktop.
And my favorite thing about the event for AMD last night, the Capstone event, was actually none of the Threadripper or anything. I did want to mention this. They had this thing called Project 47, which was a petabyte rack with enough IO with a petabyte. So enough IO, though, to essentially run 1,280 remote VDI sessions for like what you guys do. So for like medium-sized businesses, that's fucking sick, dude. That's badass. So that was the most exciting thing to me, and it was called Project 47. I'll probably add it to the show notes. But essentially, yeah, it's a one petaflop project that can run 1,280 remote sessions at a single time for GPU based render, which is cool. I mean, that to me, that stuff's way cooler than just a Ryzen CPU or a Vega GPU. But that wraps that up. We nerded out on tech this week, Slang. We actually talked about tech, so hope the new guys enjoyed that. We typically talk about video games, though, so don't get used to it. Don't get used to it. All right.
I had as much input as I could.
I think
I relatively know what's going on.
I enjoy your input, because what I do for a living is usually for people, to help people like you do what you do for a living, right? So I find it like interesting, getting the insight from both sides, right?
Right.
It's cool.
Game releases this week: Tacoma, Xbox One and PC. Yeah, coming out August 2nd. It's kind of weird. It's Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday, and it looks really... I don't know what kind of game it is, really. Like, there's a pool table, and I was like, is this a pool game? It better not be, when I first, looked at it. It looks like it's a space game. It looks like it is a zero-gravity game, and...
It's kind of hard to, from the video, it's hard to figure out what it is.
I feel like it's an exploration game that might be one of those VR titles. But it's not a VR title, right?
Yeah. I don't see that it's a VR title. It doesn't have any, links to the Vive or the Oculus Rift or anything like that. But
nope.
It has, these really badly, and I don't know if it's just like they didn't have the budget to go and render actual human forms, so they have like color blobs that like relatively look like humans.
It's like this is artistic, but really it was on a budget. Like
and some of the blobs are fat and some of the blobs are skinny.
Yeah, see though, that's what's weird is it does look like the textures are relatively good. Like they seem like relatively high res textures.
Yeah. But it looks like it's an exploration game. It looks like you're trying to figure out something that's going on the spaceship that you're on or the space station or whatever it is. And you're trying to go and fix it.
Yes, sir. The next game is Hellblade. Senua's? Or I need to go back here. Senua's?
I couldn't even figure it out.
Senua's Sacrifice?
Senua's Sacrifice. It looks like a Dark Souls ripoff if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. Who did it? So Ninja Theory, who did Heavenly Sword 2, Enslaved 2, and DMC 2. So those aren't bad games. Those are pretty good titles. This looks like to me, though, this looks like a hold me over for whatever their next big title's going to be. If that makes sense. You know how studios will do that sometimes? Like a
quickie?
Yeah, like, here you go, we'll give you something. We didn't really spend a lot of time on it, but...
Right.
I don't know if that's the case. I should say that I'm not positive that that's the case, but... Ninja Theory is good. I will say the CGI looks good. So that's a positive.
No, the graphics look really good.
I don't know if I agree on the dark. I can't find any gameplay on this.
Really?
Yeah, okay, I see some. To me, it looks more like, what was that game on Xbox One title release? The Rome one.
Oh, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know what you're talking about, though.
Because to me, it looks like it has some... What do you call those? Quick time events?
Quick time events?
Yeah, it looks like it has quick time events.
I don't know.
I should probably buy it and try it. They actually did DMC, which I love DMC. But this doesn't look like a DMC type game. This does not look like a combo heavy action title.
No.
Fighter title. This looks like to me, it looks like QuickTime Event, just masked with like the UI missing or something. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to play it, or I'll have to play it.
You'll have to play it.
August 8th, though, which is what is that? That's that's next Tuesday. Well, we early announced it. Fuck it.
Good work. Yeah,
my bad. There was nothing this week then.
I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck Tacoma is.
It's a exploration space.
Tacoma is a theatrical take on sci-fi games from the creators of Gone Home. It's from the creators of Gone Home. You liked that game.
I thought it was interesting, but I beat it.
You loved that game.
I beat it in like 27 minutes or some shit, and then like you beat it in like. No, wasn't Tacoma the one where you found out she was a lesbian and killed herself?
No, that was Gone Home.
Or Gone Home, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know if she killed herself. I thought that was.
I thought you came home to not find them, and then yeah. I can't remember. I think that's about what it was. It was an interesting game, but it wasn't a game. So, I don't think that Tacoma is going to be really a game. Sounds like an experience. Yeah,
it sounds like they tell a story in Tacoma, and you kind of have to like realize, you can explore the universe and figure out what happened in the story, but it's not really a game per se.
Yeah,
it's an interactive experience.
Ooh. That sounds fantastic. Well, I think what we're going to do then, on that note, is wrap up this podcast because I have an hour to put it up. I'm going to sync the audio to whatever our good, fantastic audio is, and then get it uploaded for everyone. How's that sound?
That sounds awesome.
Thanks for doing the show, Slang. I'll see you next week. And thanks for watching, guys, and listening. So, there you go. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe, interact, share the damn thing. Come on.
Have a good one, guys. Peace out.